Imagine holding a piece of dried clay in your hands. It is hard, it is cool, it is surprisingly heavy. Its surface is covered in tiny wedge-shaped marks. This object is not just a piece of earth, it is a message. It is a voice speaking to us. From a time so distant we can barely comprehend it. This tablet speaks of kings who lived for thousands of years. It tells stories of great cities. It tells of a catastrophic flood that washed the world clean. But it also whispers of something else, something far more mysterious. It names 7 beings. They came to humanity in the time before history. They brought knowledge. They shaped our destiny. Who were they? What does their story mean for us today? This ancient artifact asks us to question everything we think we know about our own beginnings. We are taught that human civilization started small. We believe our ancestors were simple farmers. The artifact at the center of this mystery is known as the Sumerian King List. It is not a single tablet, but a collection of several clay documents. The most famous and complete version is the Weld-Blundell Prism, a 4-sided clay block covered in cuneiform script. It was discovered during an archaeological expedition in the early 20th century. The team was digging in the ancient ruins of Larsa, in what is now modern-day Iraq. Imagine the dust and the heat of the desert. Imagine the careful work of brushing away centuries of soil. It was found in 1922, a time of great discovery in the Near East. The prism looks like a simple block of baked clay, about 20 centimeters tall. Each of its 4 sides is filled with 2 columns of text. The script is cuneiform, one of the earliest systems of writing, made by pressing a reed stylus into wet clay to create wedge-shaped marks. This method was used for thousands of years across Mesopotamia, the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates. The prism is a pristine example of this ancient craft. Its text is remarkably well preserved, letting scholars read names of kings and lengths of reigns. This object was not just a historical record, it was a political tool. The Sumerian king list is exactly what its name suggests, a list of kings. But it is unlike any modern list of rulers. It begins not with history, but with mythology. The list is divided into 2 parts. The period before a great flood, the period after. The kings who ruled before the flood are said to have reigned for impossibly long periods. 28,800 years, 36,000, 43,200. These numbers are clearly not literal. They are symbolic, meant to convey the great power and divine nature of these early rulers. They belong to a golden age, a lost time when the world was different. This list was profoundly important to the people of Mesopotamia. It gave them a sense of shared history and identity. It connected them to a sacred origin, rooting their present in a glorious, God-given past. The list names several cities where kingship was located: Eridu, Bad Tabira, Larak. This reflects a political reality of competing city-states. By presenting a single, unbroken chain of command handed down from heaven, the list created an illusion of unity and order. The most dramatic event in the king list is the Great Flood. The text states it simply, "Then the flood swept over." After this line, the entire narrative resets. The list continues with a new set of kings whose reigns are much shorter, though still very long. After the flood had swept over and the kingship had descended from heaven, the kingship was in Kish. Who were these 7 beings? In Sumerian and later Mesopotamian traditions, they were known as the Apkallu. The word means wise one, sage. According to the texts, they were created by the god Ea, also known as Enki, god of wisdom, magic, and fresh water. Ea was a benevolent protector and teacher of humankind. He sent the 7 Apkallu to the earliest humans to lift them out of their primitive state. They were described as teachers, advisors, civilizing heroes. Their purpose was to give humanity all the knowledge it needed to build cities, create laws, and worship the gods correctly. The texts tell us that these 7 sages emerged from the Abzu, the freshwater ocean beneath the earth, domain of Ea. The Apkallu were often described as part human, part fish, a powerful symbolic image linking them to the waters of the Abzu. It also marks them as different from ordinary humans. They are beings who can cross the boundary between the divine world and the human world, mediators bringing celestial wisdom down to earth. Each of the 7 Apkallu is associated with one of the pre-flood kings mentioned in the king list, acting as counselors and advisors. For example, the first Apkallu, named Uana, or Oans in later Greek accounts, is said to have appeared during the reign of the very first king. The legends describe him in detail. They say he would emerge from the sea every day to teach humanity about writing, art, science, architecture. At night, he would return to the water, a bringer of light and knowledge from a non-human source. The other 6 sages followed a similar pattern, appearing in different cities before the flood, each one bringing more knowledge, reinforcing the foundations of civilization. Their teachings were called the Me, divine decrees, essential principles of civilization. The legacy of the Apkallu is one of profound knowledge and instruction. According to Sumerian texts, they were the original teachers of our species. Before their arrival, humanity lived like wild animals, without order or understanding. The Apkallu brought the blueprint for a civilized life. Uana, first among them, taught constructing cities and building temples, showing how to survey land, make laws, administer justice, and read the stars. He gave them the gift of writing, the very tool used to record his story on clay tablets. This knowledge was comprehensive, not a slow process of trial and error, but a complete revelation. They taught agriculture, showing how to cultivate grains and manage livestock, freeing people from the constant search for food. They instructed metallurgy, the art of working with metals to create tools and ornaments. They provided architectural knowledge to build ziggurats, artificial mountains connecting earth and heaven. They taught medicine, mathematics, and music. They established the priesthood and laid out the correct ways to honor the gods. The texts imply that without the Apkallu, human society would never have advanced. Our ancestors would have remained in a state of ignorance. This challenges the modern theory of gradual cultural evolution. The Sumerians believed civilization appeared suddenly and fully formed thanks to 7 wise beings. This concept of civilizing heroes is not unique to Sumer, Egypt, Thoth, who brought writing and wisdom, Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl, knowledge of the calendar and agriculture, Andes, Viracocha, who walked the earth teaching the arts of civilization. The Apkallu story may be the oldest recorded version of this global myth. While the Apkallu were the teachers, they served a higher power, sent by the god Ea, Enki. He was one of the most important deities in a pantheon led by the Anunnaki, often rendered as those who from heaven to earth came. A council with power over the fates of gods and humans, ultimate rulers of how the world would be run. Leaders included An, Enlil, and Enki, not always in agreement. Myths detail their conflicts and debates. Enlil, harsh and severe, brings the Great Flood. Enki, defender of humankind, warns Ziusudra to build a boat. They established the first cities, temples considered the literal homes of the gods on earth. The Sumerian creation epic, the Atrahasis, gives a clear answer to what they wanted. Before humans, the lesser gods did the work, digging canals, maintaining rivers, mining the earth, for 3,600 years, night and day. They rebelled, burned their tools, and surrounded Enlil's temple. The leaders held a council. Enki proposed a solution. Let us create a Lulu, a primitive worker. Let him bear the yoke, the toil of the gods. Nintu mixed clay with the flesh and blood of a slain, intelligent god, shaping the first humans with spirit and the ability to understand commands. The Anunnaki had created a slave race, humanity, made to work, to build cities, farm the land, mine resources, and serve their masters. The 7 sages were the instructors, foremen training the new workforce. Their mission was a practical necessity, not charity. We were taught to build our own gilded cage. This is the central question that emerges from the dust of these ancient tablets. Were the Apkallu and their masters, the Anunnaki, real beings who walk the earth? Or are they characters in a complex creation myth, symbols of nature and early struggle? The mainstream academic view is clear. These are myths. Apkallu as wisdom from the waters, Anunnaki as personifications of sun, moon, storm, sky. Yet the texts read less like fairy tales and more like chronicles, listing names, places, specific actions with surprising precision. Could these be preserved memory, distorted over millennia? but holding a kernel of truth? Imagine early humans encountering an advanced civilization. Lacking words, they used the language they knew. A descending craft becomes a skyboat, a roaring engine, a fiery chariot, reflective suits, shining ones, a submersible visitor, a fishman. Conventional history rejects this, but cross-cultural consistency and practical tone make us pause. One challenge is translation. Sumerian is a language with no known relatives. Our understanding grew via Akkadian parallels. Heroic work, but ambiguities remain. Meanings can change with a single word. Anunnaki popularized as those who from heaven to earth came. Others read it as princely offspring. Dingir can mean heaven or simply sky. A skyboat could be a divine chariot, or a metaphor for a cloud. These are cultural religious texts, blending history with myth, poetry, and propaganda. Impossibly long reigns are a sign of symbolism, ideas about power, divinity, and time. 7 sages' teaching could metaphorize gradual discovery. Humans made to work could explain harsh agrarian realities. Whatever their nature, their legacy is undeniable. The tales persisted for thousands of years. Babylonians and Assyrians adapted them. The fish-garbed sage endures in relief and lore. Greek historian Berossus retold Oannes, the fishman who brought civilization. The 7 may echo in the Pleiades, the 7 sisters, a celestial counterpart to earthly teachers. In India, the Saptarishi, 7 sages, live among the stars of the Big Dipper. Egypt speaks of divine beings before the first pharaohs. Such parallels suggest a shared ancestral memory. After the flood, the direct link to the Apkallu was broken. Their wisdom survived in teachings. We built empires, fought wars, made discoveries, carrying a faint memory of a time we were not alone. The myths say the sages were hidden, not destroyed, perhaps existing beyond our perception, their influence subtle. Are they silent observers, nudging inspiration? If teachers once walked among us, are they still watching? We began with clay, hard, cool, and heavy, covered in wedges that carry a message across 5,000 years. It speaks of kings and a flood, of 7 wise beings who shaped our beginnings. History is a puzzle with missing pieces. This tablet is one of them. It does not fit neatly. It challenges us and invites us to look again. It opens the door to a past older and stranger than we think. Maybe the 7 are waiting to be rediscovered. Their story, our story. We carry their legacy in every law, every brick, every written word. The final question is not only about our past, but our present and future. If we had teachers once, are they still watching? The Sumerian tablet that describes 7 unknown beings still walking the earth.